You're watching a recorded session from our virtual conference, Freelance Fest, brought to you by Top of the Funnel. Freelance Fest featured amazing sessions on everything from cold pitching and building a freelance pipeline to optimizing your LinkedIn profile. You can watch all of those sessions here on our YouTube channel, so be sure to check those out and subscribe. But I also want to invite you to become a member of Top of the Funnel. You can join over 4,000 writers, freelancers, entrepreneurs, and marketers who ask questions, share feedback, post pet pictures, find work opportunities inside our Slack community. It's 100% free to join. Just visit jointofu.co and sign up. Enjoy the workshop.
Hi, my name is Liam Carnahan. I'm a coach and mentor for freelancers, and I'm an SEO and content specialist myself and the founder of Inkwell Content. I want to take a few minutes to talk about a topic that comes up a lot in my one-on-one sessions with freelancers, and that is cold pitching. Now, personally, I hate cold pitching. I don't really know anybody who likes cold pitching, but it sometimes is a necessary evil when you were really in need of a client or some income soon, especially in the first few months or years of your freelance journey when you don't have other systems set up or following in place that can get you leads. It often feels very gross to go about cold pitching in the traditional way of just emailing as many people as possible and sending out copy paste messages over and over to strangers. And I hated doing that so much that I just stopped doing it. And I found a different way to go about cold pitching that feels a lot less icky. It really works for me. So I'm going to show you how that method works. And I'm going to give you a few tools that you can use to implement the process on your own. Speaking of which, anytime you see this QR code and URL on the screen, you can follow it to sign up for my mailing list and get a copy of the templates that I'm going to go through in this presentation. And you'll also get all of my best tips for freelancers that I send out on a pretty weekly basis. So why does the traditional method of cold pitching feel so gross to so many people? Well, the first answer I have is that it takes all of the humanity out of the interaction. So we are all humans at the end of the day. We want to feel human throughout the day. Ideally, when you're sending a bunch of copy paste messages to a bunch of strangers, there's pretty much no humanity left. So that just feels gross to the human spirit. We also know that most people hate to receive these emails. I get them all the time and I hate them. I archive 99% of them and I find them extremely annoying. They sometimes fill me with rage if they're really bad. And you don't want to be the kind of person sending out those messages. You don't want to be the person who is showing up in people's inboxes and causing them to roll their eyes. This method of praying and spraying can also damage your image as a freelancer. For lack of a better word, it does appear kind of desperate. And look, no judgment if you are desperate. That happens in freelance careers. You become desperate, especially when you're newer to the scene. However, presenting yourself as someone who is desperate for work is not a good look, and it can really hurt you down the line. Finally, the worst thing about this traditional strategy is that it doesn't work very well. It ends up getting you the kinds of clients who don't see through these tactics, aka clients who don't understand the value of what it is you're offering or are willing to pay for that value, who want somebody cheap, who want somebody desperate. We don't want those kinds of clients. We want long-term, high-value, high-paying clients that see the value in you and will pay for it as well. So all that being said, this traditional strategy is a pretty big waste of time. So fortunately, there is a better way to go about cold pitching. And that's the strategy I want to walk you through now. What I'm going to ask you to do is kind of forget all the notions you have about cold pitching. If that's at all possible, we need to do a little bit of a mindset shift. So I want you to start thinking about a handful of leads. And I'm talking about 5 to 10 different clients. Now you're eventually probably going to have to go after more than just 5 to 10, but I aim for 5 to 10 to start. Otherwise, this process can get a little overwhelming. And you really want to be selective about these 5 to 10 because you want these to be companies that you really feel driven toward, the ones that you really, really want to work for. Why not go after those clients anyway? But also this process kind of requires you to have some passion about the people that you're going after. In fact, your whole freelance career requires passion about the things that you're doing, but especially this process, which involves a lot of deep research, which I'm going to get into in a second here. So of those 5 to 10, one place I like to start is thinking about the brands that I'm already a fan of, brands that I'm already using, products I like, companies I admire, because I already have a foot in the door by being a fan, which you'll understand a little bit more in a minute, but that's a great place to start. I also recommend going after targets that are relatively in the same niche or industry, because that way you can double up on some of the process that I'm going to show you and save yourself even more time. This process, it's going to feel a little slower than some of the other lead generation processes, but trust me, the payoff is worth it because of the results that you get. Now, I also want to suggest that you use Google and social media to find people. It's pretty obvious. LinkedIn has a really, really good search function. Once you type something into the search bar, you can use advanced features to filter by industry or name or job type. And I also really like this tool, Apollo. It's apollo.io. And that's a really good tool for finding specific people within specific businesses. So check those out. And then what you're going to do as you're doing this is start putting the names of the people you want to target into a spreadsheet. And lucky for you, this is one of the templates that I'm offering. So there's the QR code if you want to get a hold of the template. But let's have a look at it right now, shall we? So when you open it up, it's pretty straightforward. You've probably all seen spreadsheets like this before, but this is the information that I like to capture. I've just put in some fake companies in here, but you can make a copy of this once you access the template and fill it out on your own or adjust it however you like. I've got a section here for the name of the business, obviously. And then we have any important URLs that you want to include. This includes social media links, maybe a link to the blog page or anything of note that you want to be able to quickly access later. And then this is where you're going to take notes on why you want to contact this company, what kind of angle you might be going with when you're pitching to them, what you think is special about them, just anything that doesn't fit into the other places here, but things that you want to remember because you're going to be spending quite a bit of time with these leads. So dig in and get the information that you need. You're also going to want to get the name of a specific person or few people to contact at the company. And I'll talk a little bit more about who those people should be. But ideally, you want to have a few people in mind. Remember, we're putting the humanity back into cold pitching. So rather than targeting a business and, sort of a big conglomerate business, start thinking about an individual that you want to build a personal connection with. You'll have the best way to contact them, and bear in mind that could be social media, it could be email. The templates I'm going to share a little bit later are all based on email, but you can use them in the same way on all of these different platforms. Next, you want to have the date of last contact. Now, this is really, really important. I don't have time to go into my full methodology around following up, but one of the mistakes I see freelancers make over and over again is that they give up on cold leads after like 1 or 2 emails just because it feels so uncomfortable. So part of the goal here is to make cold pitching more comfortable so that you don't feel like giving up and that you do feel like pursuing. But my recommendation is that each one of these leads, you should be following up with them 3 to 4 times over the course of 2 to 3 weeks before you write them off as not an option. The last thing I have is the next step section, which is obviously where you should just be keeping track of the next thing you want to do so that once a day or a couple times a week, you can jump into the spreadsheet, see where all of your leads are, and take a few actions, little bite-sized steps towards getting yourself a really high-quality lead. Once you have a list of leads together, 5 to 10 that you're excited about, the next thing that you're going to do is enter the research phase. This is the part that I think is pretty fun. So what you're going to do here is research each of these companies really thoroughly. And I want you to kind of be of 2 minds as you're doing this. You want to think of yourself as like a super fan and also a critic. Start going through the websites of each of these at a pretty slow rate. I usually spend about an hour doing this, looking at different blogs, going on their social media, just researching them in every way that I can think of possible. Again, this is going to feel slow compared to the other forms of lead generation, but trust me, this method works really, really well compared to that. As you're doing this, this is a really good opportunity to start looking for the specific names of people that you want to contact. Look for people who are really active on social media. Maybe they're working on the blog or they're publishing on the blog, or maybe you just come across their name and their title and you think, oh, that's the person I want to contact. So keep an eye out for people while you're doing this as well. And you're also going to be looking for things that really resonate with you. You want to be a fan of this brand. So look for the blog that you think is the best, the social posts that you think are really awesome, really anything that you think you can bring forward and genuinely be like, hey, I love this, or this really caught my attention, or I have another question about this. And you're also going to be looking for areas where you think you can be helpful. This is where it helps to have a little bit more of a critical eye. For me, because I'm a writer and I'm also an SEO, I'm always looking for places where people can improve their blog or find places where they might be able to improve some user experience or a keyword that they might have missed. But that's where the critical eye comes in. No matter what type of freelancer you are, just be looking for an area where you might be able to slot yourself in the future. Now, as you're doing this, it's also a really good idea to start warming yourself up to the potential lead, even though you haven't actually made contact with them. And I'm not talking about reaching out and making a sale at this point. This is more like leaving thoughtful comments or resharing posts that they've put out, joining their mailing list, downloading some of their content. I might even suggest sending an email to somebody with absolutely zero pitch at all, just fan email. Hey, I really love this blog. I really thought this was a great post. This made me laugh. I had a question about it, and just don't even mention anything about what you do. What you're trying to do here is warm up the lead a little bit so that when you do make a pitch, it doesn't feel like it's just coming totally out of left field. So start making really thoughtful and genuine comments in places where people can see your name and your face, and you'll have a much easier time making your case in the near future when it's time to make the pitch. Once you've got that list of 5 to 10 businesses that you're really energized about and the individuals that work at those businesses, you know who they are and you're ready to target them, it's time to start crafting the pitch. And it really is an act of crafting because you're going to put quite a lot of effort into these messages that you're going to write. But no matter what approach you end up taking, there are 2 key elements to every pitch you need to have. The first is uniqueness. You need to make it clear from the very beginning, including like the subject line, that you have done your homework. You need to show them that you've gone out of your way to research who they are. You are not just another person copying and pasting messages to millions of people. You are interested in this person specifically, and you want to show them that from the subject line all the way through to the end. And the other key element is that it needs to be useful. So you need to come to the table from the very first email with a uniquely useful pitch that they can use pretty much right away with almost no effort. I know that sounds a little vague, so why don't we look at a couple examples to see what I mean. First, let's take a look at an example of an email that shows us what we're not going to do. I pulled the most recent pitch email that I archived without replying to. It happened to be from a company that I actually quite like. This sales rep was trying to get me to sign up for a demo, which I didn't want to do. And you can see why. So right off the bat, their subject line and nothing in the email does anything to convince me that this person knows who I am. There's nothing in this email that suggests that they know my name, they know my business, or anything personal about me. That is the number one way to end up in the archive bin. You have to make sure that you are going out of your way to show somebody that you know who they are. And as if that weren't enough in the subject line, they actually own up to it right in the first sentence. They just go ahead and say that they don't know who I am. They're taking a wild guess at who I am. And then they go on to tell me all about their company and why it's so good. Now, look, I do actually like this brand, but by this point, they've already lost me. I didn't ask for any of this email. I certainly don't want to sit through a sentence or two of their biography. They've been archived by this point. And then when it comes to the offer that they're making, it's not even really an offer. They're just trying to get me to sign up for a 14-day subscription. That requires me to leave this email, go to their website, sign up for the 14-day free trial, all for something that I didn't really ask for. And that's not really going to help me at all unless they actually want to use this tool. So it's actually the opposite of value. They're asking me to do something that, actually is kind of costly to me in terms of my time. So ultimately, what's going to happen is that I'm going to delete this email. I'm never going to respond to this person. Now, here's an example of one that actually did work on me. This is not someone who's been using my templates, but it is very much the type of thing that I'm suggesting that you do and the thing that my templates will help you do. So this is a different one. And let's just have a look at a couple of the things that are going on here. First things first, right off the bat, they've gone out of their way to show me that they're actually taking a specific interest in me and my business. They signed up for my mailing list. I love that because I can actually verify that. I can look and see if they actually did sign up for my mailing list. And also, I love when people sign up for my mailing list. You should do it, by the way. And so that already made me feel good. It made me feel like, hey, these people are actually somewhat invested in me as a person. They're not just blasting an email at me. They've done it again down here at the bottom where they say they went on my website and used my voice to craft something for me. Speaking of which, they've also showed me in this email that they're going to offer me something of value. Specifically, they are going to write a new email for my email sequence. Now, I didn't technically ask for that, but it is actually something that I wouldn't mind getting. And it sounds like it's pretty unique and it sounds pretty valuable to me, pretty irresistible. And the best part is it takes almost no effort for me to get this. All I have to do is reply and say yes. I don't have to go anywhere, sign up for anything, or do any extra steps. I just have to reply and say yes. And all of the friction was taken away. And ultimately, these people did get a response from me. So that's the difference between the traditional style of pitching and the style that I'm recommending. It does take some more work, but ultimately you're getting through to the people you want to get through to, and you're not just ending up in the archive bit. When it comes to making your pitch unique, you've already done all the research you need to do in order to step forward and say, I really like this, or I wanted to ask a question about this. But when it comes to adding value into your pitch, this is where you're going to have to get a bit creative. And it's really going to depend on your business and what you offer in terms of services. But in general, here's a few quick ideas that I might suggest. Probably the most common one for me that I've used is offering a free piece of content. Now, sometimes I'll actually just have a blog that I'm shopping around to different companies. Other times I'll just come forward with 3 or 4 ideas of blogs and suggest them to companies, just 1 or 2 sentences of an idea. It's a pretty traditional way to pitch things, but I've tailored these based on the research that I've done to make sure that they're really, really appealing to the person I'm pitching to so that I know they're going to want one to add to their blog. You can also do a quick recording. Maybe you do a review of something on their website or a review of some of their social posts or just a quick piece of advice on something. But a recording is a really good way, if you're comfortable on camera, to give yourself a little bit of humanity, put a face to a name, and also make it super, super clear that you don't offer this to everybody, that you've gone out of your way to offer it for this person. You can also do a comparison to their competitors if you know who their competitors are, if you have a few ideas. This is a tactic that's worked great for me. Sometimes I'll just show a person that I want to work with what keywords their competitors are ranking for, and then I'll say, hey, you're not ranking for those keywords, but I think I could help you. Kind of ignites that competitive flame that a lot of business owners have. Another tactic I like to use is asking someone if I can test out my new skills. So maybe you just learned how to make an animated logo, or you just learned how to write a certain piece of code, or you've just picked up a new SEO skill because you took one of my courses and now you're an SEO pro. Well, in those cases, a really good way to break the ice with someone is to step forward and say, hey, I just learned this new skill. I've been looking for places to try it out. I noticed that you have a website, a blog, a logo that I could work on. Would you mind letting me give it a try? I'd love to show you the results. And then you just offer them free results that way. And another way, very similar, is to just come forward with a quick tip as an expert. Hey, I was browsing your website, really loved this blog, but I noticed this. Or I was watching your story on Instagram and I really liked it, but I noticed that you might get more reach if you did this. Those are all good ways to kind of show them, hey, I'm doing something a little bit more specific to you. I'm really diving into your social media or your website, and also I'm trying to help. Okay, that's a lot of process, I know, and it probably was a lot to take in just 20 minutes, but it's a lot easier if you give it a try. And to make it easier to give it a try, I have put together a few templates from real examples of emails that I've used to win over clients that I've had in my business for years. Because they are from my actual business, they are centered around SEO and content, but they can be adapted for pretty much any type of freelancing. Really, it's going to be just a model of how I've phrased certain things before, certain tactics I've used that you can then use and adapt into your own voice for your own business. Go ahead and give it a try. One last thing to mention. If you want to get away from cold pitching altogether, I have another resource you might want to check out. It's my ultimate lead generation guide. It goes through all of my strategies for generating leads beyond cold pitching. So you might want to check that out too. All right, That's all for now. Thanks again for listening in, and you can always come and visit me at inkwellcontent.com or by finding me, Liam Carnahan, on LinkedIn or X. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.